Back in solid form, solid as a rock. All right, so my neighbors are gonna like scream at me. Um, awesome. I am back in solid form, and we are talking about what's going on with the circle. Okay, so the circle is going to the right, which means that center X is changing. Okay, each one of these circles has a slightly different center X. All right, and that makes it go to the right, or look like it's going to the right. Okay. Um, so what is actually going on here in terms of variables? Well, if I have a, yeah, there we go. If I have a variable named center X, okay, and that variable was initialized to 30, okay. All right, so I'm putting 30 into center X. If the box will ever open, and I'm taking whatever was in there out. Right, so whatever junk was in there beforehand that we didn't initialize. Okay, and this don't need to be in here either. All right, so we've got center X, and center X has 30 inside of it, okay? Trust me, that's a 30. Do I have to write it? I have to write it backwards, or else it's gonna look backwards. Oh. Alright, who cares? Alright, so anyways, let's continue on. Alright, so center X has 30 in it right now, right? And then, in our flip book, so that's the first frame we drew, and that's this blue circle, right? And then in our flip book, what we're doing is we're saying, well, what was the last position? So for the next frame, we say, what was the last position? Okay, and let's add to it a little bit to get the next position. All right, so we're gonna take 30, all right, and we're gonna add to it a little bit, all right, and in this case, we're gonna add to it 5, all right, and that's gonna be our new center X position, okay? This looks like 305. Sorry. We're going to do 35. All right. And now that will go in our X box. And that will be used to draw the next circle. Okay. So what has to happen here is twofold. All right. Between each drawing of this circle, we have to update the center X, okay, to be a different number. And it has to be based on the previous value of center X, all right? So what we have to do is we have to make this into a variable, all right? Center X has to be a variable. Well, let's do that real quickly. So we are going to, remember, setup runs once and draw runs 60 times a second. So draws are flip book. In fact, each frame of draw is the next frame of a flip book, okay? Each frame of draw is the next frame of a flip book. All right, so what we're going to do is we're first going to create a variable. And in processing, we create global variables. And that means since they're not created in these braces, they're not scoped to these braces. So if I create a variable in here, it's scoped to this particular function. If I create a variable in here, it's scoped to this particular function, meaning I can only use it in that function. And in draw's case, every time the function exits, that variable goes away, and then every time the function starts up again, it's there. So that that variable is created 60 times a second or whatever, because every time through draw it's created, and every time at the end it's deleted. It's freed from memory. Sorry. And so if we create a variable up here, it's scoped to the whole entire program, okay? And we'll get into global variables and why you shouldn't use them. But for now, we'll just use a global variable. And our global variable will be called center X. And we'll start doing this. So I know we had the Xbox before, right? But now we'll start trying to have a little more descriptive names, all right? So center X is the center of our ball, okay? So we could even have a center of our ball, X, the X coordinate of ball center, and I don't think we need to spell out coordinate. Okay, X coordinate of ball center, all right? Okay, cool, great, okay. So now, if we come down here, we can begin to think of where or how we can use center X, okay? So what do? We put center X at around 30, right? So we'll put center X at 30, okay? And we will now use center X to draw our ellipse, okay? And it'll be a little off the screen, but I think it's okay. Well, you'll get it. So it'll start a little off the screen, but we'll, why not? Why don't we just do it the right way? I don't care. Okay, so now that's center X. It's 30, all right? And center Y is 200. And we could actually do something slick, right? We could make center Y initialize to height over 2, okay? And just stay at height over 2. Nothing else is going to change here, right? And now, if we hit play, what's going to happen is when it draws this ellipse, it says, okay, wait, before I have to draw this ellipse, I have to evaluate what the heck center X is, all right? So what this is saying is go to the center X box and get that center X value and put it in here, okay? So what will happen here is the program will go to the center X box, right? And it'll look inside and it'll see the value 35. God damn it. It'll see the value 35, right? And then it will draw it there. So it'll draw it at 35, okay, for the X center. In fact, it'll kind of do the same thing here, right? It will go to that height variable, that special height variable that's been set. The second you say size 600, 700, height gets set to 700. And so height divided by 2, it will do a little, so it'll go to the height box, it'll get the 700, it'll divide it by 2, it'll get the number 350, and 350 will be stuck in here, okay? And then 30 and 30, it doesn't have to go to any memory to figure that out. That's just the literal number is 30, okay? That it'll put in there. And so it knows what these values are, and so now it can draw the ellipse, okay? Let's do that real quickly. Let's hit play and see what happens. And it drew my ellipse over there. Remember, I made this stroke god-awful. I'm gonna make a bigger ellipse. This is ridiculous, and I'm gonna reduce the stroke size because as fun as it is, it's not that fun. It's actually kind of an eyesore. It's gonna give kids migraines. Yeah, in fact, let's make it purple. And then he spent the rest of the class just messing with the colors. Red, green, blue. All right, there we go. Blue and red is purple. Oh God, yeah. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna spend like hours doing this, and then no one's gonna get angry at me. Okay. All right. So, cool. We've drawn it, and we've drawn it in terms of center X. Okay. It's cool that we use this height variable here because that means that it'll stay in the center even if we change, like the center and Y, even if we change this value. So that's nice. Okay. And now I said in draw, we need to do a flipbook thing. Okay. And our flipbook is, well, we have one frame. Our next frame better be the last frame plus a little bit in center Y. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to come up with an update to center X. I'm sorry, did I say center Y? You know what I mean. update to centerX, all right, that moves this thing to the right. And I'm gonna draw down here, we'll actually just draw our ellipse right here. Center X, height over 2, 30, 30, okay? Update center X, okay? So pause the video and come up with an update rule for center X, all right? And then this will be draw the ellipse, okay? So come up with a update rule for center X. Remember, the new value of center X, right, is gonna be the, okay. Pause for a second, do it, and then let's come back. And we're back. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to do that. The update rule, if we were following this, where center X seems to go up by 5 every time, all right, with every subsequent frame. So the first frame is 35 or 30, the next frame is, 5 more, the next frame is 5 more, is you can say center X equals center X plus 5, okay? And we can actually system.out print line center X to see what the heck's going on with center X when we do this, right? Okay, and I wonder if we can pause. Does pause work in processing? No, sure looks like it doesn't. Let me see something real quickly. I'm gonna use our favorite thing in the world, ye old processing reference, right? Processing reference. All right, processing reference, and I'm trying to get it to pause. Is there a pause? Is there a stop? It can like wait for key press or something. Okay, this doesn't matter. I can't believe there's a pause in Java, right? Oh, sleep. I don't want to do it for 2 seconds. Get character. That's C++, right? Getch. No, Getch is BGI. Okay, doesn't matter. How to pause a Java. Okay, I could get input, but I don't really care. All right, so we're just gonna see this thing go up by 5. Okay, so what's gonna happen? Sorry for that long interlude. We're gonna start at 35. We're gonna draw this thing at 35. Okay, and then the first time through the draw loop, we're gonna add 5 to it, and 35 plus 5 is gonna be 40, and we're going to print out 40, and then we're gonna draw this thing at 40, okay? So it's gonna move a little to the right, and then it's gonna be 45, print out 45, we'll draw this thing at 45, and then it's gonna move to the right, and then it's gonna move to the right, and then it's gonna move to the right, and it's gonna keep on moving to the right, okay? It's not exactly gonna work, you'll see why, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of a processing thing more than a life thing. Okay. So, why does it come on that side? I don't know. If you hit play, you probably saw it, and that's what I think you should do. It flies across the screen. It looks really cool, actually, depending on your definition of cool. And so it flies across the screen, and look, center X is just going up by 5. Obviously, 2000, an X value of 2000 is off the screen, right? But if we go up top, we can see more sane values, right? Here's the center X being 40, right? And 45, and 50, and 55, and 60, and 65. It scooters along the side of the screen. If so we have this kind of idea of it going across the screen now. Okay. Anything else I want to? Oh yeah. Okay. So there's going to be some questions below. Go ahead and answer them. And we're beginning to make animations. Oh, there was one more thing. Okay. Right. There is one more thing. I'm sorry. Obviously, this thing's going to the right. But what's happening is it's not creating a new blank sheet of paper. It's drawing it all on the same sheet of paper, right? So it's drawing the first one. And then it's drawing the second one, and drawing the third one, and drawing the fourth one, and drawing the fifth one, all on the same sheet of paper, and we're getting this kind of streaky circle flying across, okay? And that's obviously, that's cool, but not really what we want, right? What we want is we want to have our flip book work. So we want the circle drawn on this page, right? And then we want the circle drawn over here, okay? And then we want the circle drawn over here, right? In a new page, right? So all of these, there's never two circles on the page at the same time. It's a circle flying across. Well, how do we do that in processing? There's a thing called background. And what background does is it paints the whole page with a background color. So it basically clears the screen and makes the background the color that you specify. Okay, right now the background is some shade of gray. I forget what the default background is, but it's some shade of gray. Remember, if you give one number to something that is expecting a color, it'll interpret that as a gray value, 0 being black and 255 being white. Okay, remember 256 colors, right? And so we're going from 0 to 255. Okay, and yeah, so it'll interpret it as some sort of gray. And so we can do that. We can just paint over it every frame, right? And where would we put that? Well, where do we want a new frame? So when is the next time? So we're gonna run through draw, right? And then we wanna paint over it, okay? So this thing, what's gonna happen first is we paint over it, all right? And some of you might be thinking, so this is what we'll do, and then let me explain to you the reasoning behind it and processing. And this is more processing than anything else. So that'll be pretty dark, actually. I think that'll be lighter. Actually, it might be like something closer to 175 or something like that. Okay, so that'll be some light gray thing going on. All right. And so what's going to happen is we're going to paint over it, and then we're going to draw the ellipse. Okay. And at this point, the frame gets drawn. Okay, so when draw ends, whatever's true when draw ends, that's what you're gonna see as a person, okay? So if you ended up putting background down here, which you might think, okay, I drew the ellipse and now I should do background, so I paint over it for the next frame, okay? What'll end up happening is you'll paint the ellipse and then you'll paint over it with background, and when you get to here, it will draw the frame, and what it'll draw is a gray background. Okay, so you'll just see a gray background. Your ellipse will be, centerX will be updating, and it will draw the ellipse, and then we'll paint over it. So you don't want to do that. You want to start by painting over the previous frame. All right, and then draw your ellipse, and when you hit here, you get the new ellipse. All right. Now, if you do this, what you'll get is the ball moving. I don't know if you saw that, but you'll see your ball moving, and it'll move and it'll look pretty cool. And now we're really in business. Okay. I'll see you in the next video.